Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe in that calm, slow, relaxing breath. And as you exhale, allow your eyelids to close. And as they close, feel a wonderful feeling of relaxation in your eyelids. Feeling tension leave your body in that outward breath. Of breathing in a wonderful feeling of resourcefulness. And exhaling any stress, tension, or worries. That's it. And the deeper you breathe, the more relaxed you become. And the more relaxed you become, the deeper you breathe. And start to scan your body for any clues of tension. Maybe in the neck, the shoulders, the jaw, or the arms. And as you become aware of the tension, breathe in that resourceful feeling of relaxation and just imagine that tension melting away. And maybe you can imagine an ice cube in a hot drink like tea or coffee. And just imagine that ice cube melting away and feel that any tension is doing the same. And as you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to start thinking of emotions that maybe you used to think were bad or unhelpful, and start to think of them in brand new ways. Some people hate to feel guilty, but guilt is your intuition pleading for wisdom, to learn from something and to change future decisions or behavior. Similar to regret or shame, is a desire to raise standards. And frustration normally means you're agonizingly close to a breakthrough. Because frustration is not hopelessness or helplessness. Frustration is feeling that you're not quite getting the results you're hoping for. And I want you to use the power of your imagination to remember a childhood holiday. A childhood holiday where you felt happy and relaxed. And when you can remember a place from your childhood that felt away from reality and calm and relaxed, let me know by nodding your head. And I want you to step into that memory. Feel how you felt back then. Feeling a sense of relaxation and calm and happiness and freedom. And I want you to think all the way back then about your associations with sugary foods. You weren't concerned about your dental health, your physical health, calories in, calories out. there was only one primary association. And maybe we call that pleasure or gratification or joy. But I want you to think, in your childhood, neural pathways connected certain foods with being pleasurable. But knowing what you now know, some of these foods that you thought were pleasurable has led to feelings of the very opposite of pleasure. I want you to imagine floating up out of that child, of that, having the perspective of seeing the child and going through time, where a year is perhaps just a minute. And I want you to see the consequence over a lifetime of the association of sugar and pleasure. But I want you to hone in on those moments where you were dealing with the aftermath of all of those unconscious choices over a period of time that led to sadness, that led to emotional pain. And if you can recall those moments, let me know by nodding your head. I want you to step into a particular moment where you had emotional pain linked to the consequences of sugar and processed foods throughout your life. And then invite that childlike version of you, but a particularly rebellious version. The kind of version of you as a child that couldn't care less. To hell with it. I want it, so I'm going to have it. And now just imagine there is you feeling the emotional consequences of sugar and processed foods, meeting that rebellious child that couldn't care less. And when you can see them, let me know by nodding your head. And I want you to imagine what it would be like to stream those emotions into the mind of that child. That your emotional pain is then experienced by them, and switch perspectives so you feel like the rebellious child and feel those thoughts, memories and feelings of all of that emotional pain. And try your hardest to feel that sugar and processed foods still equals joy and pleasure when it's led to these intense feelings of perhaps sadness or sorrow or shame. And I want you to imagine nearby seeing a packet of chocolate, not proper chocolate with high cocoa solids. I want you to imagine seeing what they call chocolate, but it's just chocolate flavorings with sugar and vegetable oil. Maybe chocolate buttons or just milk chocolate. And while you're the rebellious child feeling these sensations of sadness and frustration and low confidence, I want you to imagine trying as hard as you can to enjoy the chocolate, knowing that it leads to these emotions. Because certain things can only be enjoyed when you disregard or don't consider consequences. That the moment the consequences collide with the action, the desire goes all the way down. And if you can reach that place where you can't even enjoy the chocolate anymore, let me know by nodding your head. I want you to imagine this rippling through time, from your childhood all the way up to the current point, where a new decision is made. That chocolate and sugar and sticky buns or hot cross buns, they're not off limits. They're not allowed. You can have them if you really want them. And I want you to come to an agreement with that rebellious child that it can have whatever it wants if it either really wants it or it's willing to wait. And if that rebellious childlike part agrees, let me know by nodding your head. Because if that part really wants anything, surely the desire would eclipse embarrassment. Surely if it really wants anything, patience is of no importance. Because you know for the things you've truly wanted in life, you were willing to wait days, weeks, months, even years, because you really wanted it. And therefore the same should be true of any of these sugary or processed foods. And I want you to imagine being in the kind of place where you might find these foods, maybe in a supermarket near the checkout, maybe in a petrol station paying for petrol, maybe in a coffee shop, seeing croissants and hot cross buns. And I want you to imagine that rebellious part of you that just desires gratification. And I want you to imagine that part is now in control. But you're in control of a voice. And feel that voice changing. In the past it was, you can't do that. You mustn't do that. You shouldn't do that. And it never really worked. I want you to feel that you can be playful. That the new voice is a form of emotional aikido. That whatever they want, of course they can have, if they really want it, and if they're willing to wait. Perhaps you could imagine being in a petrol station and seeing some chocolate and hearing that voice. If you really want the chocolate, of course you'd be willing to grunt like a pig. As you hear those words, you start to evaluate that you want it, but not that badly. Or maybe you hear the voice. If you really want it, you would do a little dance before you pay for it. And feel yourself thinking, I kind of want it, but I don't want it that badly. Or maybe you could imagine being in a coffee shop, seeing a delicious bun or fresh croissant. Maybe you say to yourself, why can't I have it? If I want it, I'll have it. And imagine hearing a voice that says, of course you can. You can have whatever you want. But how badly do you want it? Would you want it badly enough to eat the croissant while standing on a table? Would you still have the hot cross bun if you announced to everyone in the coffee shop that you're aiming to lose weight and yet you're still choosing to have this hot cross bun? If your unconscious mind is coming to the conclusion that a lot of these things that you've been eating, you didn't want them that badly anyway, let me know by nodding your head. Or maybe you see something and you say to yourself, well, it's a treat. The thing that makes a treat feel more like a treat is when you've earned it. And what if the entrance, the price of admission for a treat, is having a great workout at a gym that you've just renewed your membership on? If you really wanted that thing, of course you'd be willing to do a workout to feel like you've earned it. And after that workout, don't be surprised if the feelings of satisfaction and pride you get from the workout feel better than that temporary fleeting sensation of gratification that would come from eating the thing anyway. Allow your unconscious mind to make a distinction that true pleasure feels good in the moment when you're doing it, and it also feels good when you think back on it. But gratification only feels good in the moment and never feels good when you think back on it. And I want you to raise your standards, that you are no longer willing to tolerate gratification. You only want pleasure. And if it's not pleasurable, true pleasure, you don't want it. And if your unconscious agrees, let me know by nodding your head. And you will activate that playful part, allowing you to use a combination of delays, to use challenges and tests to scratch that CD of gratification to ensure that you're only willing to do those things that give you true pleasure, and the only things you're doing less of are those things that were never truly pleasurable and were only fleeting sensations of gratification. So feel like you're returning to the present moment with a playfulness, a feeling that you can do whatever you want, but a willingness to test what it is that you really want. So take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Connect fully into the present moment. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, you will awaken feeling a sense of resolve, a sense of determination, a sense to find the things that give you good feelings in the moment and feelings of pride and satisfaction after. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.